Hello, my name is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to talk about loneliness and hearing loss. Coming right up. So when you think of loneliness and hearing loss, you think, can they really go together? Guess what we find? Premature death comes on really dramatically due to hearing loss. As much as 45% of the cases can be linked to this. We see an increase of dementia, an increase of occurrences of different types of cancer. Patients of ours, the reason why they feel this way is that they've lost family members around. Now, I'm only 54, and I see friends of mine who are lost all the time. I have a friend of mine named Kathleen, and her husband Brian is only 56 and dies suddenly of a heart attack. Kathleen is struggling through her own loneliness that absolutely is coming on. And as we see patients struggle through this could be our friends or family members. This could be a mother, a father, and that mother who's lost the husband. She's now collapsing in on her environment. She used to go out with him. Now, I've been married for 27 years. I promise you, I don't go out a lot without my wife around, okay? And what happens if she wasn't there? I would pull, I would pull in. Now, some of our patients are constantly startled. And you think, constantly startled, what the heck? Well, if you have perfect hearing, you hear around in the spheres, those farther out distances. That's called the eavesdropping event. And we think, oh, bad, shouldn't eavesdrop. No, that's really what we all do. We all eavesdrop. We can hear conversations from a distance. Now, as I've had my own hearing loss, I can't hear those same conversations in those ways. I can hear, but I can't understand them. Where other people might be able to listen in and they're paying attention to it. But as hearing loss comes on, it reduces the range of that person being able to hear. Therefore, you could walk up behind your mom and say, Mom, hey, let's get some flour too. And she's, startled. That creates this interesting phenomenon called paranoia. I mean, if you were always startled by things, you would struggle with your paranoia. You would think that someone's always coming to get you. We see an increase of heart rate or blood pressure because of that. And then people will take blood pressure medication, and then they don't feel as good. So you get this kind of motion that goes in toward directly related to loneliness. There are diabetes risks that kind of move up the scale because of this. Now, sometimes they're eating badly. Now, diabetes isn't just because of eating badly, but it can come on very strongly because of that area. We have poor socialization that happens for patients. Why? Because they're not going out like they used to. When you feel lonely or you feel depressed, and everyone's gone through a level of depression, whether you were younger and you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that turned you down, or you moved to a new city and you know almost no one. I remember that same feeling. I moved to Roswell, New Mexico in my clinical fellowship year, and I knew no one, and it was a depressing time for me until I started to get to know people. But it made me push out of myself because I'm really an introvert. Now, extroverts can push out there, but yet even extroverts struggle with this as well. It reduces that give and take conversation that happens. And so here's the funny thing. We see people that because they're not interacting, they reduce their conversations. Let me give you an example. I had this one patient named James. He refers his friend. Then he refers his friend. And the third one down comes into me, and he gets help with his hearing, and the wife is there too, and they're all excited about getting their help. And I think I'm on the first follow-up and talking to them, and she goes, we gotta send in, and so the fourth person in the line, right? but he really is he's got really bad hearing. So let's talk a little bit about that. When he comes to their meeting, and by the way, James, down this line, they all kind of get together. So it was a group of guys that kind of know everyone, know about me and what we do. And he said, every time our fourth member here, when he shows up, he dominates the conversation. And they like him, but he's frustrating because he dominates the conversation. Guess what? That was one of our conversations that he and I had. I said, why do you think you do that? He said, because I can't understand. So it's easier for me to talk than to hear. I said, oh my goodness, dude, we can fix that. Because don't you want to have that conversation back and forth? I remember this one lady named Jean. She was a precious woman. This woman had raised a daughter who had a severe case of mental retardation. And she was at home almost all the time. But when she would go to her Bible studies, she would say, I just pray in the Spirit. I'm like, don't you want to pray in your spirit and in your hearing? You want to hear and understand what they're saying instead of just praying in the Spirit? She said, well, yeah, I kind of would like that. That's that same pullback that happens, and that increases the loneliness that happens. Did you know that medical costs can be as much as $22,000 more over a 10-year span with a person who has loneliness issues over another patient who does not? That has been a longitudinal study, which means longitudinal means a long-term study that happens. There is a 32% increase in hospitalization. I mean, 32% increase in hospitalization. I mean, these are healthcare costs that come out of their pocket. You see, if you go to the hospital, you think, well, it's going to be covered. Not necessarily. You got deductibles and all kinds of other things that they're not going to pay for. And people think hearing aids are expensive. Well, obviously they are. You know, good hearing aids, to get the right kind of ones. I always say this on the phone. This is what we talk about. A pair of hearing aids are $2,500, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. People say, oh my gosh, well, I should buy them online. Well, guess what happens if you buy them online? You have to get someone to help you, because those online ones are not going to fix it. And we talk a little bit about those online companies, but the reality is that I spend a lot of time with my patients, and my whole staff does as well, to reconnect the patients. I love it when I hear this. I've seen patients who have been classified on the newest scales. They're 1 to 7 in the dementia realms. And we have actually watched them knock down at least one level. And it's just because of hearing. They're connecting with the world. And so we see this all the time. I have a guy that comes to my Bible study, and when he got his new hearing aids, he started talking softer and softer. I'm like, I know exactly why, because I fit in with his hearing aids. And so he's talking softly because he can hear himself. In the other times, he would talk very loudly. That's a relation of how much he is hearing himself and that connection that occurs. Hearing loss disconnects us. If you want to be connected and reduce some of the loneliness of your family, bring them back together getting help. So subscribe. I appreciate you listening to us, and we'll talk a lot more about more information here. Thank you so much.